Good morning, Judith.
Good morning, Sonya.
Welcome to the Coaches Cup podcast. I'm Sonya Green from SonyaGreenCoaching.com.
And I am Judith Fender, one of the amazing coaches with the No BS weight loss program at, let me get it right today, www.nobsfreecourse.com.
All right. So if you've listened to last week's episode, you know that this week we are talking about values. And I say that you know that because when we recorded that last week, we didn't know we were going to be talking about values. It kind of happened organically while we were talking, right?
It totally did. Even as you're speaking, Sonya, I am rolling back the pages to make sure that did we come up with a definition of values?
Well, I will tell you that I snuck a peek at Brene Brown's definition.
Okay.
And we can talk about hers and talk about if there's any differences. I think it serves pretty well for most of the people that I have read and the way I think about it. But anyway, we came up with this as we were talking about I've forgotten last week's topic.
I know. We're just all about the organic stuff these days.
Yeah. But how we have self-sabotaging behaviors
Yes.
that work against us, and the need to be in integrity with ourselves and know our values, understand our values.
Right.
And so her definition is our way of value is our way of being or believing what we hold important.
I like that. A way of being or believing what we value to be important.
Yeah. And I think the one thing that is problematic for people in our busy society today is we don't stop to really reflect on what our values are, right?
I'm like, yes. So many, let's just say it, the word autopilot. People are out there just cruising around, not connecting or knowing purpose, intention, just going. We're just going, trying to do the things.
Yep. We have our to-do list and we're all about checking off those things. And we never really stop to connect with what our values are. And so I think it's really important, if we are going to live our best lives, if we're going to fulfill our potential, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, we have got to understand what our values are.
Agreed. I'm somewhere between like just wanting to start talking, making sure that I'm like in the structure of what we want to say.
Oh, you go.
So I think right away for me, Sonya and I pulled these cards from judyho.com. She has a book out, Self-Sabotage, or Stop Self-Sabotage. Here's the cover of it. And on her website, she has the value cards, and they're also in the book. Fun fact, I'm just now seeing I could cut them out of the book. But
why cut them out of the book?
Right? I wouldn't have done it. So for me, when I did this exercise, when I printed out the cards and I read, so we were to put them in three categories. Most important, moderately important, and least important. So there must be, I didn't count them, but I'm thinking
33.
Okay. And 11 could go in each row.
It had to go.
Yeah.
We had to make it even.
Yeah. That was not fun. That was a little painful for me personally. And I told Sonya when we were pre-gaming, I said, for me, I just went ahead and told myself that most important and moderately important mean the same thing to me. I can't quite, but the top three. So we did kind of roll with like whatever our top three most important.
Yeah. Tell us what yours are, and then I'll talk about my experience because mine was a little different.
Well, intuitively, like for me, without a doubt, before I even sliced out these cards, I knew it was going to be health. Like that has been my objective for the journey I have been on for the last 5 years. And the truth be told, it may have even been longer, but since discovering Corinne 4 years ago, about a year before, when I found out I was, chronically deficient in vitamin D, and my weight was so high, and the doctor wanted to put me on all the medications, and finding out my mom had dementia, like that pivotal moment in my life where decision making, like my health matters. Like I'm going to be 50. It is time to get your shit together, Judith. Something like that dialogue was going on in my head, but it was always about my health. So without a doubt, health, and the way it's mentioned in Judy Ho's card is it says to maintain or improve the fitness and condition of my body and my mind, which is a nice summary. Authenticity, and I'm going to put trust. A big part of my journey has been learning to trust myself. So trust is something that comes up a lot. Trusting my intuition, trusting my decisions, trusting me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm babbling. Go ahead. Your turn.
No, you're not babbling at all. So I first came to values through Brene Brown. I mean, that's the first time I really can think about where I really started thinking, what are my values? And she has a list of 100, and hers, she just wants you to narrow it down to 2 to 3 out of, because, and you will, the first time you go through that list, you'll check off like 20 or 30. But so that was my first idea, and I already had an idea of what my values would be. Judy Ho narrows it down to 33, and she says, of the most common.
Right.
And so I liked doing that because it felt a little more doable. 33 rather than more than 100
I can't imagine.
It's a nicer list. But when I started doing it, I was really surprised at how easy it was. Because when I finished, I just did the sort. And when I finished, I had 11 in the moderate category, which is right where I was supposed to be. But I only had 10 in the most, and I had 12 in the least. So I had to switch them around just a wee bit.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that I did this, which is what context did you place choosing the values? Does that make sense? Like, for me, I just did it just living. It wasn't based on like my career. It wasn't based on relationships. It probably maybe truthfully to relationship with self.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay. And that's another thing I remember reading at some point, that, people want to have a set of values for their personal life and their professional life. Yeah. You can't do that. You cannot, because then you're going to have conflicting values, and then you won't be in integrity with yourself.
Which this is so interesting. I'm getting ready to open up a rabbit hole. Values to goals, values versus goals. Like, how. Yeah, I'm like, if y'all can't see my hand on, if you're listening to us, I'm like pausing, trying to get my thoughts together around the importance of knowing, if you want to lose weight, if that's a goal, then it's important to value your health.
Yes. So let me talk about it in those terms. Okay. I'll tell you what mine were, and then I'll tell you about what I discovered. So I got the cards sorted, and then it wasn't too difficult to move. I had to move one of my least to my moderate, and one of my moderate to my most. And then I had my 3 categories done. And for mine, my top 3, and like I said, I kind of already knew this from the Brene Brown exercise. is authenticity. So
Mhm.
there you go. And I think that is very reflective of the work I'm doing on myself right now.
Of-
Um, and I think you read this, but it's authenticity is to act in ways that are consistent with my beliefs and desires despite external pressures.
mhm.
And at this point in my life, I am really trying to dig in and live authentically because I think I feel like it would be easy to be pulled in lots of different directions with the demands on me as a department chair, the demands on me as a mother, as a wife, as a professor, as a coach.
Mhm.
There's all of these different demands, and I have to be honest. I have to be authentic about who I am because if I start trying to please everybody, it's going to blow up in my face.
Agreed. Agreed. And
And
even as you're saying that, I was thinking about like, trusting yourself. And when you show up authentically, that's telling the truth. It's
yeah,
being honest. It's speaking the truth. It's being in integrity with yourself and your story, meeting yourself where you're at.
yeah. So authenticity was my number one. Curiosity, to be open-minded and interested in discovering and learning new things. I think I just talked about that.
Mhm.
That is my journey right now. And humor.
Mm.
Humor is incredibly important to me, um, because it is so easy to take our lives too seriously.
Yeah. Is that why you love me so much?
It is why I love you so much. And I think it's a part of authenticity. That's another reason I love you so much. I am drawn to people who are real, who are authentic, who aren't trying to live to a standard set outside of
Right.
them.
And you can see that in people. Like
Yeah,
like we talk about it's, I don't know, this is another bunny trail, but like trusting your intuition about people when you see that in people. I think that's an important, um, I've been, it's just important trusting your knowing.
absolutely it is. But let me talk about what I discovered
Yes.
about my own weight loss journey because when I started looking at my values, here are things that made it into my moderately important list, which I didn't. I do have those separated. I mean, they're still important to me, but on a given day, they're going to be pushed to the side.
Mhm.
Now, let me preface this really quickly for all our perfectionists who are listening.
Oh boy.
This does not mean that I chose the wrong values. My values are my values,
Mhm.
and I need to embrace those. I need to understand that this is where my journey is right now, and understand that because I have been honest and these are in my moderate category, this is um, maybe some of the reason that I've been approaching my weight loss incorrectly for me.
For you, right?
For me. But please, there are no right or wrong answers to this.
No, it's finding what works for you and
Exactly.
help you connect the dots. And that's what you discovered on with these
Yeah,
cards is, oh my
yeah,
goodness. So am I right or wrong? Will you take your most valued and figure out how to apply those values
right.
to weight loss? Okay.
So in the moderate category, I have persistence, health, self-control, diligence. All of those things are in my moderate category. And yet I have been trying to lose weight based on these things being the most important.
Right.
And guess what? For me, if these are the things it takes to lose weight, I am not going to be successful because those values are not the most important to
Right.
me.
Right.
So this was a huge moment, like a stadium's worth of light bulbs. You know how you see those
Yeah.
on TV when the stadium lights come on? That when I looked at that, I was like, duh, this is why my intentions are not matching my goals. So I looked into my most category, and in my most category are things like authenticity, acceptance, caring. And so what I am thinking about now is ways to turn those values, to use those as a framework for losing weight.
Acceptance,
Caring, compassion for yourself.
Yes.
And so I can do that, but I wouldn't have known that I needed to do that. I wouldn't know why I kept kind of hitting a wall if I hadn't realized that my values were mismatched with my goal.
That's so good to know.
Yeah.
It sounds, just to even hear you say that out loud as someone who I know has who self-develop, self-coaches and coaches, to have the appreciation and the aha for this moment of, oh yeah, okay, well, I see this. Values matter.
They really, they are the foundation that if you're going to do thought work, you really need to step back and take some time to reflect on your values, to know what they even are. And you're not going to know. You're not just going to pull them out of the air unless you have something to bounce them off of. So that's why I like the card sorting. I like the list that Brown does, but I really like the card sorting because you have to make those choices.
Okay.
And knowing that it was an easy choice for me, that also tells me something. The fact that it was an easy thing to do tells me that I'm really not, persistence isn't a really big deal to me right now. It's moderately important, but it's not at the top.
So when I think about, just kind of, we're just rolling this, y'all. If health is mine and it's to maintain or improve fitness and condition of my body and mind, if it's what I value, that it plays a role in the decisions I make on a daily basis.
Yes.
And I do it so naturally, like, because it's been a habit now for so long. I don't even know. It's just what I do. I just work out, I eat well, I sleep well, I drink my water. I do the things that take care of, that maintain my body and mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And authenticity for me means that I make some really difficult choices sometimes. I will tell you, I am a person who has avoided conflict for most of my life. And at some point along the way, I realized that I didn't like how I was showing up, that was not working for me. It was this little nagging feeling. I don't know how long I've been working on this, maybe 5-ish years, but it was a nagging feeling at first, and it just kind of kept growing. And I have, in the last year, something about being a department chair, you kind of have to face some of that.
Yeah.
You will either sink or swim. If you can't please everybody, so you'll either spend your time trying to please people and not be in conflict, but constantly putting out little fires.
Yeah.
Or what I've learned is you can do the difficult thing and approach people with honesty and love, compassion for me, compassion for them, and face the difficult moment with truth. And then it's just done. It's just done. There's no, that I can't tell you how freeing that has been for me as somebody who's tried to put out little fires her whole life without having to face a big fire. Conflict is not something that I still don't like it.
Oh yeah. Oh,
But
that might come up on the regular for most of my coaching clients. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not, I've let that fear take over to the point where I made it a raging forest fire, when really it can be just a little bitty flame that you need to stomp out every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, I don't know, my mind traveled when you were telling that story. I was thinking about, in the early days when I was working in the business, our family business, and being an independent business owner myself, young female, like, I think so many of those steps, like, I just did so early on and not even realizing how it served me, but knowing, like, I remember those terrible days. Like, I had to decide, and being in integrity with myself, showing up, being honest, talking to my employees and my customers in a way that was true to me, that kept me going. Because if you could go burn out in flames real quickly if you lived any other way with this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And people do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's why, folks, if you're listening, you need to start thinking about this now. If you want to reach your full potential, you've got to understand what are your values. And I think you were talking earlier in Judy Ho's book about how we have a growth need. She was talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes. So if you're not familiar, you may want to Google this, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's kind of a foundational element of much of psychology. And that if these basic human needs, so if you got a pyramid, at the bottom, the foundation is the physiological needs, and that's like breathing, food, water, shelter, clothing, and sleep. The next level is safety and security. That would be health, employment, family, and social stability. The next level up the pyramid would be love and belonging, friendship, family, intimacy, sense of connection. The next level up, self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect for others, experiences self as unique. And at the top is called being self-actualized. And that is where morality, creativity, acceptance, experience, purpose, and meaning. That's where that's that level of growth. And like you having your foundational needs met. Yeah. And why it's so important in much of what we do in weight loss coaching is coaching our clients around meeting those foundational needs so that you can create health for yourself and moving up. So where am I going with, where was this about growth? How
the growth need is at the top. And yes. In other words, first, it's important to think about, when you're thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we are in a unique position in our current culture to even get to this level, because yes. in centuries past, people were still worried about the food and shelter element, and it was hard to get unless you were very well off in some way. Yes. It was hard to get to that level because you were still figuring out some of those lower portions.
Maslow called the fifth level of the pyramid as a growth need, because instead of focusing on the lack of something as a problem that needs to be solved, it stems from a desire to grow as a person. When fulfilled, growth needs enables a person to self-actualize or reach their fullest potential as a human being.
Yeah. And reaching that level, it's absolutely critical to know what our values are, because we're not going to reach that level unless we have an understanding of what's important to us.
Okay. So this is where, from this point in the book where she talks about Maslow's and where we when we're pre-gaming, she talks, according to Maslow, the qualities at the self-actualization, when you reach your full potential, they're often experienced at what's called peak moments. And a peak moment can be described as a transcendent experience of joy that stands out from everyday events. And it's moments of highest happiness and fulfillment associated with the feeling of functionally effortless and easily without strain or struggle, and in complete mindfulness and feeling of being one whole and harmonious self, free of inner conflict. So where I wanted to go with this was telling you about a client that I had that, and is it okay to share that, you think?
Yeah.
She said. So we were reading this and I was like, oh my gosh, Sonya, I just got a message from one of my clients this morning who just said that she did it. She's this is her quote, so excited and so amazed how I can have harmony and consistency in my life while I lose weight, socialize, and achieve my goals. Had such a lovely evening, stuck to my plan, enjoyed alcohol, and I didn't overdo it. I stayed in tune with my body and ate probably a little more than enough, but nowhere near stuffed myself. Had a great evening and stayed on track with friends. And like that to me sounded like a peak moment. Like she was in her highest potential.
You know, as you were reading that, I was thinking about black and white thinking, which we talked last week, often leads to those self-destructive behaviors. We often think that life has to be a list of black and white decisions. I can either socialize or I can lose weight. I can go out to a restaurant and eat with my friends, or I can stay home and lose weight. The key is when you figure it out, the fact I can go out with friends, make choices that are in harmony.
Yes.
And then you've kind of hit that Zen moment, that moment of fulfillment.
Right. So the peak moment.
Yeah.
And so Gail Privet, which I have heard of other people mention Privet before. Whatever research she does, her name has popped up several times. I just need to say that out loud for you and I both. But they have found that peak moments share 3 characteristics, and we'll just mention, just worth knowing. The significance. Peak experiences lead to increased personal awareness and may serve as turning points in someone's life.
Those light bulb moments.
Fulfillment. Peak experiences generate positive emotions and allow a person to feel at one with himself or herself in the noted absence of conflict. And the third one is spiritual. During a peak experience, people often feel at peace and often experience a sense of losing track of time because they are truly mindful. I love that.
Yeah. And I think, for me, a lot of this journey started when I realized how much of my emotional energy was going to thinking, unproductive parts of my life. And I wanted to clean that up so I could have more energy, because I felt like I was spending too much emotional energy and I was wasting too much of it in certain ways in my life. And I think this is the opposite of that. When you reach this point, you're energized.
Your thoughts and your emotions are in harmony.
Everything comes together. Yeah.
And so knowing your values, to tie this back in, will help increase your ability to reach that level and function at that level to get to your goals.
And this is where we've got to wind down, because we are, I guess, in our peak moment, and we're forgetting but this is where I think meditation, reflection, journaling, whatever you want to call it, this is why we preach it so hard. Because you have got to get into your body. You've got to listen and contemplate, reflect, whatever you want to call it. But you have got to really spend some time figuring these things out. They don't just happen while the radio's going and the kids are wanting to know what's for dinner and your husband's complaining about his day. as long as you are in that whirlwind, and folks, I am preaching, I mean, to
Oh,
myself,
girl. Mhm.
but as long as you're in that whirlwind, your values are not going to be at the top of your, do I want to, how do I react authentically in this situation? Do I scream really loudly? Because that's what I want to do right now.
It's a life created.
It
It's
is.
a life created.
Yes. You grab it,
Mhm.
but you've got to reflect on it first and make some decisions. So, the most important thing that you can do for yourself this week is to make 5 minutes a day. If you're not journaling already, if you're not, I mean, it takes different forms. For some people, it's meditation. For other people, it's journaling. I don't know. Choose the way you do it. But my goal for you listeners is to make 5 minutes a day and start thinking about this. What are your values? Get one of these lists. You can Google Brene Brown list of values. You can Google Judy Ho. Is it Stop Self-Sabotage? Is that the
Stop
book?
self. Yeah. If you just do Judy Ho and go to her book, her
Yeah,
website.
Value Sort, I think you can do. And get that list. But start thinking about what are your values.
Yeah. 100%. I'm not sure that I can add anything to the call to action. I like your 5 minutes, and you know what? If you can't do 5 minutes, you can do 1 minute. Like
Yeah.
start somewhere.
Yes. Set a timer. Start. Lock yourself in the bathroom if necessary.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that's it for values. I hope we have convinced you to start looking at them. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Sonya, this is our 52nd happy 1 year anniversary.
Yes, this is our 52nd podcast. Can you believe
Right? No, I can't. No, I can't.
that blows me away. Talk about, I have enjoyed this
Me too.
immensely.
Me too.
And
Yeah.
I can't wait for episode 500.
Right. And full disclosure, Sonya is the workhorse behind the scenes. Sonya makes the magic happen.
Not true. I enjoy it. I enjoy our connection, our authenticity.
Right.
And so this is not work at all. This is a pleasure.
It is fun. I always get a little up in my head thinking, what are we going to talk about? What am I going to say? I don't follow it. You know, the story I tell myself. And then in the end, I'm like, dang, that was so much fun. Just could talk all day. In case we didn't know already, we could just do this all day.
And we always pregame before, and we still have plenty of things to say. So anyway, if you all like listening to us as much as we like talking, then please go to iTunes or Google Podcasts or Pandora or wherever you get your podcasts. We can be found just about everywhere by now.
Wow.
And, yeah.
Wow, really?
We're out there. We are. Or YouTube. And give us a 5-star rating so that other people will be bumped up and other people will get to listen to us too.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. Until then, if you're looking for a coach, I would love to talk with you. You can find me at sonyagreencoaching.com.
And I am one of the amazing coaches at the No BS weight loss program. And the best place to get started, if you're not already a member of the community, of course, would be going to nobsfreecourse.com.
All right. We'll see you all next week.
Bye.